Welcome back. Tonight, the point of view is discussing the efforts at constitutional reform. H. Kwesi Prempeh is the chair of the committee set up by President Mahama to review the constitution. Dr. Nimoy Thompson is the chairperson of the NDPC. He's also a presidential advisor on SDGs. And Oliver Barker Vormawor is with the Democracy Hub, but he worked under CRC1 with the likes of Raymond Atuguba, Nana Tewa, Oche Clement Takapam, and a whole bunch of lawyers. Now, let's talk about some of the proposals. Extend presidential term limit from 4 to 5 years. So, are these proposals what the people you interviewed said, or this is what you guys think?
Exactly, that's a good question.
It's all of that, right? So we're trying to weigh a number of considerations here, right? The interesting thing is that when we interviewed different sections of the Ghanaian public, including some of those who have operated the constitution at the highest level, former presidents and the like, incumbent presidents and the like. And of course, we also interviewed, we also spoke with, had engagements with everyday Ghanaians. And I think you could say that on this particular issue, the everyday Ghanaians' attitude probably is a bit different on this one from the
people who have served in office before.
Yeah, and so you then have to, when you get a split like this, right, then you have to basically weigh the issues. I mean, people are basically saying that they are frustrated and disappointed with politicians. They they don't want them to hang around for too long.
They want to give them 5 years.
Yeah, they don't want to hang. I mean, so you get that sentiment, right? But you also understand that, this is the place needs to be governed. I mean, people need space to govern. And what's in a number? Then you ask yourself, what is really about? What is this fetish about? 4 or 5, right? So you do a comparative, study, and you realize that the median, globally, most people are moving now, whether presidential or parliamentary, it's hovering around 5 point something. So you say, look, what's in a number? These guys are complaining that it's too tight a period for them. Part of it, and part of the response is, look, it's your own time management. Nobody says you must take X number of months to set up a government, and nobody says you must take the last month or last year of your tenure to go and campaign. So there is a time management problem here that is basically for the leader. So we have tried to free up some of that time with some of our proposals around campaign regulation, the campaign calendar, regulating the time for campaigns and all of that. But there is a real issue about just having the time to govern. In fact, a number of proposals wanted a single term. A single term, long single term.
Like 6 years.
Like 7 years.
Exactly. Ras Mubarak has 7.
Right? So some actually said 7 years. And we're saying, well, 7 years, this is a presidential system. In a parliamentary system, where votes of no confidence and other things can happen to terminate an unpopular government's tenure midstream, you can actually play with 7 years, right? Because if there is a rebellion in the cabinet or the party, they can remove the prime minister very easily or the president. A presidential system is not like that. The tenure is fixed. The term is fixed. If you said 7 years, single term, that's going to be a problem. So we got 7 years, single term. We got 5 years. We got maintained at 4. And then, somewhere in between, 6 and all of that. And we looked around and said, look, generally the trend is towards 5. And we also thought...
Before you even explain, don't explain. Do you agree with this 4 to 5 year thing?
Definitely not.
Do you?
I have different views, which might require me to speak longer.
No, but I just...
I don't
No, the reason
on the
why
same
I
question
think-
of 4 to 5.
What I disagree with the committee is that I think that is one of the questions that should go to referendum. So it's one of the questions that they put into the semi-entrenched that goes to parliament. And I think that this is a question that the people should speak on.
Whether they want 4 or 5 years.
Because what they have done is that they put the 2-term and the referendum questions. So anything that concerns the modifications of the length of the term should go.
So you can't say put 2-term under referendum and then not give us the term.
Yes.
I think it's
so that's what I would say. And again, the concept and what they have provided us is the semi-entrenched. These classes and what goes into the various chambers is something that can be negotiated through the political process.
Exactly.
That we can agree that, okay, this is an issue that has come up, this idea is not new. This is not the first time we have encountered it. And so you should go to the people. I would agree with that.
Why do you disagree with 485
No, but even before we get to that, to the issue, the options that he's offering, we need to look at the empirics, the empirical basis for doing these things. What can you do in the 5th year that you couldn't do the previous 4 years? I'm sure you're also familiar with the Parkinson's law, that work tends to expand to fill time. So if I were to give you a task and ask you to complete it in 1 hour, you will complete it in 1 hour. Yeah. And if I say you should complete it in 12 hours, you simply spread it out to do the same thing. Yeah. And there's so much you can do. And the commission is actually, as an example, just this morning we presented the coordinated program of economic and social development policies to the president. We completed it in 6 months. The previous one took 23 months. Now, following this logic, probably we should have asked for 36 months.
So you disagree?
This is something, no, completely. And from an economic point of view, it also doesn't make sense. You want to be efficient. I'm glad that they highlighted the directive principles of state policy, which to me is perhaps the central element of the whole report. But in it, it talks about productivity. Productivity is achieving the most with the least amount of inputs.
By the way, do you make the principles justiciable? Is that a recommendation?
But we have a different, it's not, for us, it's not really just a justiciability question, which is really the very legalistic way of looking at it. We are also saying that we have to look at these things as, politically implementable, right? In terms of implementation, you could impose a duty on a political kind of duty. Like, look, you're a president. Give us, in your annual State of the Union address, something that reports to us in a format that tells us what you've done in the last year to achieve this, that. We take it as our SDGs, and I'm happy that Nimoy is also there. So we're saying that let's look at this as our homegrown SDGs. And when we do a budget, let us, after we've done the budget, show in what ways
it aligns.
Is the budget aligned to that. So there are political ways of making this actionable, not just going to court and enforcing through judicial judgment.
All right, no problem.
That's one angle. That's only one angle. But I think there are more ways to do this.
For want of time, lower the minimum age president candidate from 40 to 30. Do you agree?
That I'm kind of ambivalent about. I haven't thought of because I'm not in that category that aspires to be. I'm long past that. But off the top of my head, no, it doesn't sound too appealing to me, the 30. Because it's one thing to be smart on book. You need emotional intelligence also. Not that age necessarily brings emotional intelligence. But at that point, you are between a man, a boy, a young man, and what would you, not an old man. There's a process of maturity there in leadership.
Really?
But there are those who have argued that, listen, we have people in their 20s now running multi-billion-dollar businesses and so forth. Yes. But these are businesses that can collapse and no one really feels anything.
But there are people in their 30s who run countries too.
No, but it's a different system. Those are parliamentary systems that start from the bottom. You start at the local level and you work your way, similar to what happened in New Zealand. I think she was 29 or so when she.
So you feel for a presidential system, the personal experience of the individual at the top is crucial, and age is a key factor in experience.
Yes, it depends on the political system. Again, as I said, in New Zealand and other places, they usually start at the bottom, at the ward level, and they work their way. So by the time they're in their mid-20s, in fact, they are well positioned to even lead their party and by extension, the country. We have a system that can easily lend itself to populism. You end up with the wrong person, such as what is going on.
You disagree?
I disagree.
Oliver, what do you think?
No, I agree. In fact, we are campaigning for 18. Because there's no real justification in terms of the numbers in the constitution. Yeah. Parliament says 21. There's nothing that shows for it. So we had asked for 16 as voting age. And then remove age restrictions. In fact, that's what we said. That from 18, anybody. But the real test of it is, again, we have to remember that the Ghanaians must elect the individual. Exactly. That if an 18-year-old can go the length of breadth of this country and canvass votes to win the presidency, I think the Ghanaians deem the person qualified enough. That's
so they think the age thing. So once a person can vote, they should be able to.
Once the person can make a decision as to vote, the person can present themselves to be voted upon. And then they appear, we as citizens then ought to judge the person and say, all right, based on what.
Let me do a couple more. Limit the number or restrict the number of ministers from parliament. When you say restrict, what did you mean?
We don't say restrict the number.
Okay, then
do not actually appoint.
Okay, so yes, so If you're an MP, you can't be a minister.
Zero.
Oh, yeah.
Separation completely. Yeah. You agree with that?
But this was the case before, right?
It's 79.
Yeah, 79 was the case. Yeah.
Do you agree with this?
Yeah. It creates a lot of issues, challenges, and some of them were. There are even ministers. There was one case where the person was an MP, he was a pastor, and he was also a minister,
And board member.
possibly board member. And they were all overwhelmed by these things. But just to wrap up on this 4 or 5 year thing, for those of us who've been in government, we've come face to face with the numerous inefficiencies in government that, if tackled, can open up so much space for us to get to do so much. You won't believe what sometimes goes on, where the people in various parts of the government, they even shake down finance officers in various MDAs that give me Christmas, or else next year your budget, you suffer to get your budget allocations. And it happens. So you're sitting there as the president, you elect me, I will build 200 schools. At the end of your term, you've built 50.
Because
someone is holding back the monies. All because there are no systems of transparency and accountability. So the issue, in fact, public sector reforms is part of our work now. I believe that once we have an efficient system, there's so much we can do. And even the 4 years, don't forget, you are coming in on the back of someone's 4 years. If you discount that by, let's say, 2 years, you basically have 2 years already done for you, total of 6. But if you spend the whole time tearing down everything that your predecessor did, in addition to inefficiencies in government, it will take you forever. And to give you an example, take the competition law and the consumer protection law.
Gone through many
this is the 19th or 18th year.
Oh my God.
Seriously.
We are trying to get that. Yes, the commission is now pushing that. Now, what is it? 18. So someone is going to ask for another, 10 years? Because there's simply no commitment, tenacity of purpose, vision. Yeah. We need to deal with all those issues before we even talk about those.
But you agree that no MP should be a minister?
Yes.
You agree with that?
I do.
Yeah.
Most people who listen to the show, I think when we discuss, they also agree with that.
Yeah.
And then cap the total number of ministers and require parliamentary justifications for excess. So because Mahama has 50, is it 56 or something? Mm-hmm. You think they should cap it?
Yes, I mean, we capped it in 79, under the 79 Constitution. We capped it even under 69. So we capped it before. And our numbers are a bit just...
Too many.
It just makes no sense.
So if this Mahama can work with below 60, that should be the standard.
We're saying that, the Constitution says cabinet must consist of 19 ministers plus the vice president, right? So some factor of 19. So we say, well, how about 19 times 3? There must be some reason why it says 19. Let's give you 3 of that number.
Then that's it. So
and then that's it. And we've just allowed a small opening to say, if you can justify to Parliament, however, that you need to appoint beyond one more person over that number, then for each additional minister, you have to go to Parliament and justify it separately from the
you agree with this?
Nomination.
Capping the ministers.
Yes, to a large extent, but we also should ask ourselves, to what end? Why are we capping it in the first place? There's this notion that if you cap it, you save costs. You save money.
Not true?
It doesn't necessarily follow that way. You can actually reduce the number of ministers from, let's say, 50 to 25, and your budget would actually explode just by virtue of the scope of activities and so forth and so on. So it doesn't always lead. So if we are capping it to save costs, we should bear that in mind. It doesn't necessarily translate into that.
It's not necessarily to save costs. It's also to just unburden the president. Right? When you talk to a lot of, when we had meetings with the various people who have held this position at the highest level, it's clear that they are under tremendous pressure for patronage jobs. Right? And as long as there is no limit, it's difficult to tell the last person that I can't give you this job. So in a way, sometimes these presidents are begging for their hands to be tied. So if a person came to you and said, look, I want a job, the president's like, look, I can't appoint you. I'm already 59.
Okay.
That's it. So sometimes we have to help our leaders to really say no.
And don't forget that
to this kind of pressure.
Maintain a minister is expensive.
It is expensive.
So whilst it's not, you can have other government appointees. I feel like it sends a signal that if you have just 59 ministers, and all the people who support them will also be fewer, right?
All I'm saying is that we need to strike a balance. If you move too far to the other extreme, you also have a burnout. among ministers. Yes, and I've actually heard some complain that they're overwhelmed.
But you can change them if they are tired. Give somebody
No, it's not that they're tired. We're talking about systems that they work with. One minister, because they have maybe previously, let me use the example of Liberia, for instance. Not that it's the best, but I remember in Liberia they have 2 deputy ministers. One is administrative, one is technical. That then gives the minister the time to perform the way they should.
Oh, okay.
We don't have that. And at this point, we have so many ministers with a single deputy minister. That then places a lot of pressure on the minister. So let's strike a balance.
But the Liberians have chief directors.
They do.
So what does the chief director do? Because if I have an administrative deputy minister and I have
Why do you have
a
an
technical
deputy?
chief director, minister, what
The chief directors, I forget the details, but there's a level below which you don't have policy influence. Ministers have policy influence, whether they are for technical, administrative, they can sit in certain meetings that the chief director cannot sit in. So there are those nuances that sometimes you bring to the table.
I suspect you agree with the capping.
I know, I
As
agree
for
with
you,
the cabinet. I do think that perhaps what has bloated it up a bit is also the question of the regional ministers. I'm not a big fan of it, but we have 16 to deal with, and they have to kind of accommodate that in some regard, but yes.
And also capping the size of parliament at 276.
I could also even said 100. I don't know if you remember that. The
I
later
think the
Koto
constitution
said-
says 140. I would have preferred 140, but
As a minimum.
there's a
But
minimum.
I don't think you have the courage to remove somebody's seat. So for now, keep it at 276.
Yeah.
Because it will be a political suicide to say, we are coming to remove your hometown from it. It's going to cost you.
Exactly.
Yeah. So cap it.
So there's some pragmatism.
I mean, look,
Yeah.
the U.S. Congress hasn't expanded in size since 1911.
Wow.
Yeah. The
Wow.
population in 1911, I think, was around 90 million. It's now, in the vicinity
341.
of 300 and something.
There's something you said
It's
which
kept the same number.
good. You said you were supposed to do actionable recommendations. You have a recommendation that says study and consider proportional representation to improve inclusion. I'm not sure you put it in the same way, but you didn't make a hard proposal for proportional representation.
No, I mean, because we weighed the issue. I mean, there is certainly, a consensus on the committee, or at least a majority in favor of the idea in principle. Now, to actually implement it in the Ghanaian context, we have been with first past the post since colonialism. Since the 1950s, Ghanaians were familiar with it. Our systems are all set up in that way. Now, and there are so many different variants of proportional representation on offer when you look at the options. And they tend also to be associated with parliamentary systems, right?
Yes.
So we said, look, we have a presidential system. There are some, Chile and I think Costa Rica, which are presidential, that have proportional representation. Let's study these things. There are so many different ways of slicing this cake. We, as a committee, given the time that we have, we cannot settle on any particular way of doing this. So we're saying it's worth studying. Almost every committee from SKB Asante Committee to CRC1 said the same thing. Please study this thing and let's make...
We don't have enough
Nobody has
information to
done
implement it.
Well, so it's just an admission.
Because it's a complete change of system.
It is, exactly.
So it's not the kind of thing you can just recommend.
Just say,
You need more time to study.
We need more time, and especially as it works in presidential systems. Right?
We'll take a shortish break. When I come back, we have more. I'm going to get into the NDPC development plans and some of the proposals there. This is the point of view. We are live looking at the constitutional review efforts and the work that the committee just did. Stay with us.